Mapogo, the strongest lion coalition of all time. Dawn breaks over the Mala Mala Reserve. The golden rays of the sun shine gently across the vast savannah, where the loyal lions rest peacefully after a successful night of hunting. Here begins the story of the Mapogo Lion Coalition. Makulu, the oldest lion of the coalition, had a difficult beginning. When he was just 20 months old, Makulu was separated from the pride and wandered alone. Normally, a lion so young would hardly survive. However, fate smiled on him when the male lions of West Street accepted him. One quiet afternoon, in the middle of a sunlit field, Makulu stood among the other male lions, silent as a shadow. No one expected that he would become part of the strongest alliance in natural history. Several years later, Makulu and 5 other young lions, Ken, Jill, Mr. Tay, Rasta, Scar, and Pretty Boy, left Airfield together. The quiet afternoons were over. 6 young warriors began a new journey, no longer protected by the pride, but in unity they found strength. In the middle of the vast savannah, 6 lions walked silently through the night, their shadows stretching across the ground, like ghosts from the depths of the forest. But within that silence burned the will to survive, a hidden power waiting to erupt. For the first time, the Mapogo faced a herd of Cape buffalo, the sound of hooves pounding the ground, the rapid breath of the prey, and the deep roar of the predators. King Kinky Tail and Mr. T took the lead and charged straight into the herd of buffalo. Finally, after many hours of struggle, an adult wild buffalo fell. 6 young warriors surrounded their prey, breathing heavily, but their eyes filled with pride. During their time together, the Mapogo learned to coordinate with perfect precision. No longer weak on their own, they had become an invincible alliance. But peace didn't last long. By mid-2006, the Mapogo entered northern Sabi Sand, territory ruled by 4 dominant male lions. The sky now darkened, a sign of the ruthless war to come. The clash was fierce. A rival male lion roared defiantly. But in an instant, he was defeated. The 3 remaining males fled, abandoning the Ottawa pride. 3 lionesses and 11 cubs left behind. That misty morning, the Mapago entered the territory in silence. There were no more roars, no chases, only a terrifying stillness. The lion cubs of the Ottawa pride, who just days ago played in their mother's shadow, had now become the target of the Mapago alliance. 2 with cold eyes grabbed a lion cub and devoured it brutally. An uncommon act, but one that symbolized the absolute brutality of the Mapago. After the first battle, the Mapago entered their golden age. 6 warriors patrolled their new territory with no enemies daring to challenge them. Peaceful afternoons returned to the coalition, but this time they stood at the very peak of power. Makulu lay in the shade of an old tree, watching his brothers play. Pretty Boy was the calmest, while Mr. T and Kinky Tail always displayed their aggression. The atmosphere seemed peaceful, but somewhere beneath it, tension was silently creeping in. After years of dominance, the Mapago Alliance 6 invincible warriors began to face internal conflict. The simmering tension between Mr. Tay and Makulu had now erupted into a fierce war. On a gloomy morning, Makulu and Mr. Tay faced off in the middle of the grassland. Their roars echoed across the sanctuary. Both charged at each other, slashing with claws and biting with sharp teeth. In the end, Makulu emerged victorious, biting one of Mr. Tay's teeth. This battle fractured the alliance. In 2008, the alliance officially split into 2 factions. Mr. T and Kinky Tail withdrew to the east, while Makulu, Pretty Boy, Rasta and Scar held the Western Territory. Though there were still moments when both factions met and interacted peacefully, each side now had its own separate domain, and the possibility of a full reunion seemed impossible. In the east, Mr. T and Kinky Tail quickly established their authority. These 2 warriors were considered the most brutal and aggressive of the alliance. Not only did they fiercely protect their territory, but Mr. T and Kinky Tail also acted as shields for their brothers in the west. To reach Makulu's territory and the rest of the group, intruders were forced to cross through the eastern lands, where Mr. T and Kinky Tail were always on duty, patrolling without rest. The quiet days of the 2 brothers passed under the glow of the setting sun. But then, a new threat was silently approaching. In 2010, a new coalition appeared in the Savannah, the Majingalain Coalition. 5 young and healthy male lions. Their thunderous roars echoed near Mr. Tay and Kinky Tail, signaling the beginning of a new war. On a dark night, Mr. Tay and Kinky Tail spotted a young Majingalain lion on patrol. Wasting no time, the 2 brothers rushed to chase him down. The young lion was quickly cornered. Furious, Mr. Tay clamped down on the lion's neck, while Kinky Tail tore into his groin. The Majingalain Coalition had lost a member. But this victory is only temporary. What happens next will change the fate of Kinky Tail and the Mapogo Alliance forever. That night, while Kinky Tail and Mr. Tail were still resting after the battle, the 4 remaining Majingalain lions had already begun to move. They would not accept defeat. They were returning for revenge. In the middle of the misty night, Kinky Tail spotted 2 Majingalain lions approaching. Without hesitation, he rushed to attack, but it was a deadly trap. 2 more Majingalain After the death of Kinky Tail, Mr. Tay returned alone to the Western Territory, where Makulu and the rest of his brothers still lived. Experts feared Mr. Tay had been driven away, but instead his old brothers welcomed him back. However, Mr. Tay's return did not bring peace. Soon after, he began killing and cannibalizing the cubs of other Alliance members. It was a cruel act meant to assert his position as the new ruler. No. One stopped Mr. Tay, and he quickly mated with lionesses, continuing to spread his genes. At the same time, losses continued to haunt the Mapogo. Rasta mysteriously disappeared, possibly killed by enemies or poachers. Scar left the reserve and was shot near a residential area. The Mapogo Alliance was now reduced to just 3 members. Makulu, Pretty Boy, and Mr. T. The wounds of the past were now deeply etched into the Mapogo. They remained strong, but time and new enemies were against them. After the tragic death of Kinky Tail and the return of Mr. Tay to the Mapogo Alliance, only 3 members remained: Makulu, Pretty Boy, and Mr. Tay. Though they were once rulers of the Sabi Sand Reserve, their power was no longer the same. In 2012, a new enemy appeared: the Salati Coalition, 4 young male lions. Strong and ambitious, the Salati Coalition entered the last stretch of Mapogo territory from the south. On a gloomy March afternoon in 2012, a fateful battle took place. While patrolling the territory alone, Mr. Terror suddenly came face to face with the 4 Salati lions. Without Makalu and Pretty Boy by his side, Mr. Terror found himself in a desperate situation. A fierce roar echoed through the grasslands, and Mr. Terror fought until his final breath. But overwhelmed by the strength of his opponents, he was bitten in the spine. Leaving his hind legs paralyzed. The Salatis continued their relentless assault, draining his last ounce of energy. As night fell, Mr. Terrace collapsed, leaving behind the legend of a warrior. The death of Mr. Terrace marked the end of an era of fierce domination. Makalu and Pretty Boy, the last remaining Mapogo warriors, were forced to abandon their territory. In the days that followed, the 2 male lions wandered aimlessly through new lands, each step etched into the sun-scorched grasses, a reminder of their glorious past. They were old, and years of constant battle had worn down their strength. Yet still, Makalu remained resilient. Some witnesses claimed that Makalu and Pretty Boy had even confronted the Kruger alliance. 2 younger male lions, Freddy and Limpy, challenged the last of the Mapogo. During the battle, Mekulu defeated Limpi, but his strength was gradually fading. In November of 2012, Mekulu and Pretty Boy were last seen near Kruger National Park. The final two survivors, old yet resilient, were still hunting together. A photo of them beside a fallen wild buffalo served as a powerful reminder of Mepago's past glory. In January 2013, Mekulu, the alpha lion, a symbol of resilience, was seen alone for the last time in Mala Mala, where his journey had begun. At that moment, Mekulu was nearly 15 years old, well beyond the average lifespan of a wild male lion. The journey of Mepago is not just a story of domination. It is a symbol of strength, brotherhood, and the harsh laws of nature. Over 6 years of dominance, Mepago forged an unprecedented legacy. They controlled 8 prides, eliminated over 100 opponents, including adult males. Cubs and lionesses, and created a period unmatched in the history of the Sabi Sand Reserve. Yet at the same time, the story of Mepago is a testament to the cruelty of the wild. Internal conflict, the rise of new enemies, and the relentless cycle of survival brought this alliance to the edge of extinction. Today, though the Mepago alliance has vanished, their legacy lives on. Young coalitions like the Megdingilane and the Silates continue to dominate the lands once ruled by Mepago. A part of nature's unyielding law. The legend of Mepago reminds us of the power of unity, the ferocity of nature, and the cost of power. Those 6 warriors entered the realm of legend, and their names will forever be spoken when talking about the greatest rulers of the African savannah. Mepago, not just lions, but the eternal legend of Sabi Sand. Mepago, the strongest lion coalition of all time. Dawn over the Mala Mala Reserve. Gentle golden rays shine down on the vast grasslands where the lion pride proudly rests, at peace after a successful night of hunting. This is where the story of the Mepago Lion Coalition begins. Mekulu, The largest lion in the coalition had a rough start. Only 20 months old, he was separated from his pride and left to wander alone. Normally, a young lion like him would have very little chance of survival. However, fate smiled upon him when the male lions of West Street accepted him. A peaceful afternoon in the sunlit fields. Makulu stood among the other male lions, silent like a shadow. No one expected that he would become part of the strongest coalition in natural history. Years later, Makulu and 5 other lion cubs, Kinky Tail, Mr. T, Rasta, Scar, and Pretty Boy, left the airport together. The peaceful afternoons were now over. 6 young warriors embarked on a new journey, without the protection of the pride. But in unity, they found strength across the vast grasslands. The 6 lions moved silently. At night, their shadows covered the ground like ghosts of the deep forest. But within that silence was the desire to survive, hidden strength waiting to explode. For the first time, Mapogo faced a herd of Cape buffalo. The sound of buffalo hooves hitting the ground, the panting of the prey, and the low growls of the predators. Kinky Tail and Mr. T led the charge. They rushed into the herd, and a fierce battle ensued. Finally, after hours of fighting, an adult buffalo fell, and the 6 young warriors surrounded their prey, breathing heavily, but with eyes full of pride. Through the days spent together, Mapogo learned to coordinate perfectly. They were no longer weak and lonely, but an unbeatable coalition. However, peace did not last long. In mid-2006, Mapogo entered the northern sands of Sabi. This was the territory of 4 dominant male lions. The sky was now dark, signaling a brutal battle ahead. The brutal clash ensued as the male lions roared in challenge. But in a moment, he was defeated. The remaining 3 fled, leaving the Ottawa Pride with 3 lionesses and 11 cubs. On that misty morning, Mapogo silently entered the territory. No more roars or chases, only an eerie silence. The Ottawa Cubs played in the shadow of their mother, only a few days ago the target of the Mapogo coalition. Mr. T, with a cold gaze, seized a lion cub and ruthlessly ate it, a rare act but a symbol of the absolute brutality of Mapogo. After the first battle, Mapogo entered its golden era. 6 warriors patrolled new lands, no longer challenged by anyone. Peaceful afternoons returned to the coalition, but this time they stood at the height of their power. Makulu lay under the shade of an ancient tree, watching his brothers play. Pretty Boy was quieter than most, while Mr. T and Kinky Tail continued to display their aggression. The atmosphere seemed peaceful, but somewhere tension was silently creeping in. After many years of dominance, the Mapogo coalition began facing internal conflicts. The simmering tension between Mr. T and Makulu erupted into a fierce battle. On a gloomy morning, Makulu and Mr. T faced off in the grasslands. Their roars echoed across the reserve as they clashed, their claws and sharp teeth tearing into each other. In the end, Makulu emerged victorious, biting off one of Mr. T's claws. This battle broke the coalition. In 2008, the coalition officially split into 2 factions. Mr. T and Kinky Tail retreated to the east, while Makulu, Pretty Boy, Rasta and Scar retained the Western Territory. Though there were still moments when the 2 factions met and interacted peacefully, each now had its own territory, and the possibility of reunification seemed unlikely. In the east, Mr. T and Kinky Tail quickly established their dominance, considered the most ruthless and active in the coalition. Not only did they defend their own territory, but Mr. T and Kinky Tail also served as a shield for their brothers in the west. To enter the area where Makulu and the others resided, intruders had to pass through the Eastern Territory, where Mr. T and Kinky Tail were always on patrol. The peaceful days of the 2 brothers passed under the sunset, but soon a new threat quietly approached. In 2010, a new coalition emerged in Sabi Sand, the Majinjalane Coalition, consisting of 5 young and strong male lions. Their thunderous roars echoed near the territory of Mr. T and Kinky Tail, signaling a new battle. On a dark night, Mr. T and Kinky Tail discovered a young male lion patrolling. Without hesitation, the two brothers charged. The cub was quickly cornered, and in a fit of rage, Mr. T bit into the lion's neck while Kinky Tail ripped apart its groin. The Majestic coalition lost one member. But this victory was only temporary. What happened next would change the fate of Kinky Tail and the Mapago coalition forever. That night, while Kinky Tail and Mr. Tail were resting after the battle, the remaining 4 Majin Buu lions began to move. They refused to accept defeat and returned to seek revenge. In the foggy night, Kinky Tail spotted 2 Majin Gulan approaching. Without hesitation, it charged, but this was a deadly trap. 2 other lions suddenly appeared from behind, surrounding Kinky's tail. Kinky Tail fought fiercely, but against the overwhelming numbers, it quickly fell. One Majin Gulan bit into its neck, while others tore at its back and lower body. Amid the dust, Kinky Tail took its final breath. As it was devoured, Mr. Tail appeared and tried to save his brother. But against the strength of the 4 Majin Gulan, he was forced to retreat in pain and despair. After the death of Kinky Tail, Mr. Tail returned alone to the Western Territory, where Makalu and the other brothers lived. Experts feared he would be driven out, but instead his old brothers welcomed him back. However, Mr. Tail's return did not bring peace. Soon after, he began killing and eating the cubs of other coalition members. This brutal act was to assert his position as the new ruler. No one stopped Mr. Tay. He quickly mated with the lionesses, continuing to spread his genes. Meanwhile, the losses continued to mount for Mapago. Rasta mysteriously disappeared, possibly at the hands of enemies or poachers. Scar left the reserve and was shot near a residential area. The Mapago coalition now had 3 members: Makalu, Pretty Boy, and Mr. Tay. The scars of the past had now deeply affected Mapago. They remained strong, but time and new enemies were against them. After the tragic death of Kinky Tail and Mr. Tail's return, the Mapago coalition now had 3 members: Makalu, Pretty Boy, and Mr. Tay. Although they once ruled the Sabi Sands Reserve, their power had weakened. In 2012, a new enemy emerged: the Salati coalition, 4 young, strong, and ambitious male lions. They moved into Mapago's last territory from the south. On a gloomy afternoon in March 2012, a fateful battle occurred. Mr. Tay, patrolling his territory alone, suddenly faced all 4 Siberian lions. Without Makalu and Pretty Boy by his side, Mr. Tay was in a desperate situation. A fierce roar echoed across the plains as Mr. Tay fought until his last breath. But before the overwhelming strength of the opponent, he was bitten in the spine and his back legs were paralyzed. The silent followers continued to attack, exhausting him. As the sun set, Mr. T collapsed, leaving behind his legend as a warrior. Mr. T's death marked the end of a brutal reign. Makulu and Pretty Boy, the last warriors of Mapogo, were forced to leave their territory. In the days that followed, The two male lions wandered aimlessly across new lands. Their footprints left a mark on the sun-scorched plains, a reminder of their past glory. They had grown old, and the continuous battles had drained their strength. However, Makulu remained resilient. Some witnesses recall that Makulu and Pretty Boy clashed with the Kruger coalition, two smaller male lions named Freddy and Limper. In the battle, Makulu defeated Limper, but his strength was also weakening. In October and November of 2012, Makulu and Pretty Boy were last seen near Kruger National Park. The last surviving duo, old but strong, still hunted together. Their image beside a shot-down buffalo was a reminder of Mapogo's glorious days. In January 2013, Makulu, the alpha lion, a symbol of resilience, was last seen alone at Mala Mala, where his journey had begun. Makulu was nearly 15 years old, far exceeding the average lifespan of wild male lions. The journey of Mapogo is not just a story of dominance, but also a symbol of strength, unity, and the harsh laws of nature. In 6 years of domination, Mapogo wrote an unparalleled legend. They controlled 8 prides, defeated over 100 opponents, including mature males and lionesses, creating an unprecedented era in the history of the Sabi Sands Reserve. But at the same time, the story of Mapogo is also a testament to the cruelty of nature, internal conflicts, the emergence of new enemies, and the relentless cycle of survival, pushing the coalition to the brink of destruction. Today, although the Mapogo coalition has disappeared, their legacy lives on in young male lions like Majenjalane and Silatis, who continue to rule the lands that Mapogo once controlled, as part of the harsh laws of nature. The Mapogo legend reminds us of the strength of unity, the brutality of nature, and the cost of power. These 6 warriors have entered legend, and their names will forever be remembered when speaking of the greatest rulers of the African savannah. Mapogo, they were not just lions, they are the eternal legend of Sabi Sand.